So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to pick your company name and design the logo the right way, because there is a wrong way to do it, because I've seen a lot of people make mistakes here, and the right way to do it. So I'm going to talk about the right way to do it. And to illustrate what the right way is, I'm going to share the story of how I came up with the name of the company logo, name of the company, and design the logo. And it's extremely important that you get this step right, okay? Ready? Okay. I decided, first of all, that I'm not going to spend more than 5 minutes on this, okay? So I went on the logo website where there are a lot of logos and names that you can buy. And I went on this website which had a lot of name ideas. And there were two names. One of them was called Medi-Gates, like medical gates, Medi-Gates, and Vital Health. So the brilliant mind that I have, I took one word from this and one word from this, and I combined them together. And what we have is Vital Gates. And that's how I came up with the name of my company in less than 5 minutes. Then I found a logo maker in $40 to $50. He had a logo, and that's it. I did not spend a single more minute than what I'm just telling you. And that's the right way to choose a name and a company. And the lesson here is efficient and quick decision making, because people spend too much time on the wrong thing. The name does not matter. Pepsodent, the toothpaste company, or Colgate, these things actually don't mean anything. I don't know if Colgate means something or not, but the point is it doesn't matter, because a lot of the people think Nike or Apple, these brands have become so big. It's because of the name, and there's a whole science behind the name and the whole psyche behind the name. And some people have developed their entire careers around structuring name and logo, and they charge exorbitant amount of money for this. I have met companies that have exited for, between $30 and $50 million that had really funny names, and nobody even knew about the names. When you go to sell the company to an investor, they look at the financial statements. They do not care about the name. And certainly the customers do not. The most important thing is the service, the product, and the infrastructure that you have in a lot of the cases. And in some cases, even in the infrastructure does not matter. The service is what matters. And what that logo and brand represents, what's behind that name, behind that logo, is far more important than the name itself. And what's behind the logo gets associated with the name. And I will give you an example from this. So after I selected the name and I designed the logo, I met with my chairman, who used to be a CEO of a $3.5 billion company. It's the second largest telecom provider in UAE. And I had a meeting with him, and I shared the profiles of the people I had gotten on board after him. And I had it in a printed file, and I gave it to him. And he looked at the logo and he was like, "What's this? You picked a name?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Vital Gates?" And I had a straight face and I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Who's working on the branding?" And he looked at me and he was like, "Okay, no problem. Keep me posted." And I was like, "Sure." Next time we met, we had, after a couple of times, we had a board meeting where, 8 or 9 members of the board came together, high profile guys in finance, in accounting, in healthcare, top CEOs. And he was the chairman, and everybody introduced themselves, and it was a very powerful Zoom call. And what happened was that at that meeting, I announced, this is the casual meeting. This is the first meeting of Vital Gates. We're coming together first time. And what happened was that those faces, those people, the power that was in the room got associated with the name. These two things got linked together. And next time when I met the chairman, he looked at the name and he had a different relationship to it. And he said, you know what, I like the name. And I was like, yeah. And I told the story even to my brother. And initially it was a little joke. But then when, big things started to get associated with the name had some weight, some power. But the power didn't exist in the name itself, but what was behind the name is what gave it power. And especially afterwards, we did, several multi-million-dollar negotiations. We even met public companies, billion-dollar public companies. And with every action that was taken from this name got associated and linked to the name. So it's the action that matters. It's the result that matters that gets associated. It's what's behind the name that gets associated with the brand. And that is the brand. The brand is not the logo, but what's behind the logo and what gets associated with the logo. And the relationship to that logo changes based on the actions and what's behind the logo. So that's the lesson here. Is one thing is efficiency in decision making. You have to take decisions fast, speed, right? You have to take decisions fast, and you have to look at what the real thing is, what the actual thing is. What's the meat, not the packaging. What's the meat here? What is it that is of substance? And so that is a lesson that I learned, where I was reading Your First 100 Million, Dan Benya's book, and he said that if it's not a life and death decision, just take a decision. Just take a decision. Don't spend too much time on what the wall color should be in your office, what the sticky notes, what color they should be, and does everything match? And don't spend too much time on this garbage, because it doesn't matter. The important thing is the actual thing that you're working on. And I remember my brother, he was starting a project. He wanted to create a high profile community of high stakes poker player and association. And he spent, I think, a good amount of 1 to 2 months, hours and hours and hours of meeting of how the design should be of the logo, what the name should be. Everybody was giving suggestions. For many hours, he hired a graphic designer, 10 different graphic designers, 10 different logos, changing the color scheme, this, that, all kinds of stuff. So many valuable hours wasted. What's the value that the logo brings? Nothing. It's what the people behind the logo that matters. And his whole hypothesis at that time was that people will look at this card, our visiting card, and we'll give the card and people would just magically be like, wow, what is this card? I'm getting hypnotized. I want to be part of this club. No. When was the last time you just looked at the card and logo and you're like, what is the story behind it? Let me ignore my wife and children and everything that's going on in my life and just go into this logo and find what's inside, kind of like, in Narnia or Harry Potter, the thing opens up and you enter. I mean, it's not like a portal where you can enter. The thing that's behind it, the meat, is what's important. It's not the symbol. What the symbol represents is far more important. And that's how the relationship is shaped with the logo. When we look at Coca-Cola or Apple, we think about products that revolutionized the world, that transformed the world, that gives us the ability to do 100 times more than what we could have done. That's what the product represents, and the logo is just something that all of this gets associated with, service. So that's the lesson, and that's the right way to select the company name and logo, and you got to check if it's available. I checked in my region, it was available, and we just went with it. So that's, the whole process. Now, if you're going public, you can change the company name. There are times when you have the infrastructure, you could think about these things, maybe something easy to pronounce, something easy to find, maybe a one word. something that's easy for people to link the brand with. You can change those things later on. But when you don't have the employees, you don't have an infrastructure, you don't have sales, you don't have capital, you don't even have a business to spend so much time, one of your most valuable resources, time, to allocate it to this thing. I mean, at some point you have to look at what's the value of putting all of this time here. Could we be looking at the real thing, or are we trying to avoid the real thing and caught up in something that doesn't even matter? So you have to move on, and it's okay to have it imperfect. I actually personally love the name. I came up with it. It's amazing. So that was the lesson, how to pick the name and design the logo of your company. The answer is as fast as possible. I'll talk to you soon.